Lord, I just ask you to help me during this time to get across a lot of information that will help us all to get good friends and be good friends. Now I'm actually going to, this morning I laid a foundation, and basically all I was saying was, I want to know for sure that my capacity to be a friend is godly, and that I use appropriate time to do it. And don't feel guilty if because of my calling I need way more solitude than most people need, and therefore I don't have time for the usual. I really don't. You could say you could make time. That's not true. I can barely make time to clean the porch upstairs like I did. And Robert can absolutely testify to that. And if you go in my bedroom right now, you go, what is wrong with you? Your mother would turn over her grave. You're probably right. But then I wish Mommy would get in my house and just follow me around and know what all I'm doing that I have to do. And there's no reason to push yourself silly to clean your bedroom if you've done everything you have to do and you're done. You're just flat out done. When I came up, for a woman, being a homemaker was the highest value, and those women did it, baby. And they'd all have their better homes and gardens, and they'd all find out what cleans what best, and what would work best in the oven, and what would get the stains out, and all that's important. You don't want to go to school with a big stain on your little blouse. You know, you're happy your mommy's into homemaking. That's true, but not all of us have that as our first priority because of whatever calling we have. And I shared this morning, sometimes you have to get around people, like I said about Loie, who, by the way, brought me out of my little look down on my nose on women that didn't have a career, because that was the first time in my life I saw somebody with 7 kids whose homemaking organization and skills were awesome, just awesome. Complete with a cellar full of perfectly canned foods. Everything was in order, everything was clean, had the kids under control, and she knew the Bible, and she'd sit down and teach you and mentor you. She just, to me, she comes the closest to a Proverbs 31 woman that I've ever met in my entire life. And like I said, the longer people that I love are dead, the more saintly and perfect they become. Because they can't prove me wrong, ever. But to me right now, everything I said was absolutely true, but I realized it might have gotten a little idealized with sparkles on it, like you can do with some apps. But she was just diligent, modest. Good night. I had on a perfectly modest one-piece black bathing suit at the beach, and she rebuked me saying it wasn't modest enough. And I'm like, how much more modest can you get with a bathing suit? But whatever. I mean, she was very conscious of any unseemly behavior, even a leak of it. She's a good mommy mentor to me, and she's bold. She didn't care if she hurt my feelings. One thing I told her that I started to have a crush on this guy, and she knew how the struggles I was going through, and if any woman would understand why somebody would be tempted to have a crush, it should be me that could at least have a crush and a little bit of an imagination of how life could be. And there was no, now I think I was being stupid because now I'd react the same way. But at that time I thought, well, it's wrong, but I can understand why you'd struggle with that. You know, you're looking for your friend to be, but she would have been wrong. She said, you keep that up, you're going straight to hell. I was so shocked. I can still tell you exactly where that moment occurred. It was when social services had a branch on South Division near our old building. And I was at the back steps about to say goodbye to her because I don't know if we'd done lunch or whatever. And you know how it is when you're absolutely shocked, your whole environment is imprinted on the whole package of the shock. I was shocked, but then later on I thought, you're right. I need to immediately crucify that, kill it, and never look at that guy again or feel happy when he notices me. He was a federal probation officer who could dance like you wouldn't believe. And that both were attractive to me. All soul, all flesh, all evil. And Loie nailed it. Cut it out. You go any further with this, you could go straight to hell. Cut it out. But anyway, that's the kind of friend you need. That's the kind of friend you need. Somebody who loves you enough to not care if they lose you in the midst of their honesty. That's the kind of friend you need. The wounds of a friend are faithful. Kisses of an enemy, that's what's dangerous. That's Bible. I just paraphrased a verse in Proverbs. Iron sharpeneth iron. We don't like to be challenged. It never occurred to me she would be like, well, I can see why you'd be tempted. And you know, looking back, if she had said that, I wouldn't have respected her. This is the thing you have to remember with friends and your kids and everybody else. You might say something you think is cool and you're their buddy right now. When they grow up and really get to know the Word and the Lord, they're going to look back and say, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Why did they affirm that? They should have rebuked that and said, no way. My son wanted to go to New York City with a friend of his, and that's when you still had regular phones that you could listen in on somebody else. And I picked it up on accident, but I kept listening to a conversation he was having with a guy he was going to New York with, a guy that always acted perfect. We saw him a couple years ago on the street, and he all but cried at the joy of seeing us. I mean, he became our friend too. But he was saying things and swearing like he would have never done in front of me, and saying about the kinds of things they were going to do. And I let E.G. know, I listened to that conversation, it's over my dead body, you're going to New York City with him. And I didn't even say to Robert, what do you think? I don't care what anybody in the world thought at that moment. You are not going to New York City with that guy. The guy must have been around 18, maybe E.G. was 17. I'm like, no, that ain't happening. And he could have thought it. And another time I come home from something, and him and his ROTC officer club buddies, one was two pastors' sons, my son and another pastor's son, in the room watching Eddie Murphy Raw. And I probably embarrassed the mess out of E.G. And I said to the other pastor's son, what in the world are you guys doing? You're supposed to be a light to these other guys. I think Patrick was a part of that one, Patrick Thompson. They were in that officers club together. Why are you watching that? And we were gone on a trip. E.J. had no idea what time we'd be back. And I just marched right in there and said that. And at the time, I'm sure I embarrassed my poor child. But when he becomes more and more godly, and he realized the importance of being a light, then you roll back what your parents did, and you say, thank God she didn't care if she was popular or not. She wasn't trying to be cool with my buddies, the cool parent, the permissive, you can say that to me. No, I don't have a need to do that. I'm like, get that mess out of here. I didn't kick the kids out. I welcomed the kids. I kicked the pitcher out, the comedy show of Eddie Murphy, because it was just full of mess and raw vocabulary. And I'm talking about friendship now. You want friends like a Lowey who tell you the truth. You don't want friends who pet you on your head. You do not. Maybe you do. That means you're immature and soulish. If you're just looking for friends that agree with everything you choose, whether it's godly or not. I looked up several words that kept reoccurring in the Bible. And I need to tell you, I don't always do what the Bible says to honor my husband. That was one of the words kept reoccurring in regard to friendships, relationships. One of the last things I did last night is literally look up all the words that kept recurring. And one was honor, honor. And because I'm so forthright, and I don't like to waste time. I don't want to work at 10 minutes of petting you, working up to feeding you the medicine that's going to hurt your tongue. I'm like, rip the stupid Band-Aid off, why fool around? I'm like that because I don't like to waste time. And you don't need to do it with me. You don't need to pet me. If you got something to say like, keep that up and you're going to hell, you don't have to. Now, Dylan, you know I love you. Oh, come on, just say it. Just say it. And you know what? When you say it, the whole conversation is going to demonstrate you know I love you. I don't have to start out with, why? I'm talking about grown folk. Grown folk. If we know each other. Why do I have to do that? You know I love you, don't you, Dylan? Yeah. Why are we wasting time? If we've already established a love relation, I ought to be able, like Chloe, to say, keep that up, you're going straight to hell. Just see what will happen to your conscience. Your conscience will be shipwrecked if you keep doing that. Sin has a quality of hardening your heart. Do you want a hard heart? Do you want to be one of those people that believe a lie because you refuse to receive the truth? Do you want to be one of those people? Is that what you want? Now, when I talk to you like that, now I know some people could do that in a hateful way. I know that's not my motive. My motive is I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want to see you go to hell. I don't want to be at the judgment seat, and I just assume that when you're on my side and you're next, we're all going to happily enter in together, and lo and behold, depart from me. I never knew you. And I'm like, what? What did I not know about my friend that caused that? What was that? I want to tell you now what might cause that, so that that never happens to you. And you need to tell me. No, you don't have to act like, just like if you were going to rebuke your mother. Maddie, if you were going to tell Karen something, you don't come off as, now you're her very strong, authoritative, superior mother. You do it with honor and humility, but you say, you do realize what the Bible says about that, don't you? You have to forgive this person. I'm not thinking about your mom right now. I'm just saying, as a daughter speaking to a mom, you do it with honoring, but you do it. If you have to write a letter, you tell people. The Bible makes it very clear. You want a friend who speaks the truth in love. That's what you want. Well, I don't want that. Well, you got a problem. You got a problem. Because you need that. Honor, by the way, and there's a lot about honor concerning friendship. And the basic thing is appreciation, respect, or affection. Remember I told you before, and I stand by it. When people you're walking in the door, first time you're in the building in that morning, and you come in like this. People are looking at me. Did they notice how I coordinated my colors? Did they notice my shoes are silver and my purse is silver? Did they notice that? Or do I say, oh, Kyrie, I heard you're going to get baptized. That's wonderful. And I mean it. I believe that's wonderful, okay? And then do I say, Cordell, how's it going with that play? Are they still trying to drain the money out of y'all? You know, when I walk in, unless I'm being disruptive, it's already started and I'm really late. But you walk, oh, so good, you found a way to get here. I'm so happy to see you. Now, why do I even know about Kyrie or Sue or Cordell? Oh, good, you found another job that's working better for you. Why do I know these things? Because we've talked. Because we've talked. How's it going at home? Do you think Robert's closer to wanting to see my face? We've talked. We've talked. If I walk in every time, of course they're all looking at me because I'm so coordinated. They just are so jealous they can't find those deals at Goodwill and look like they're millionaires. You see the difference in caring, in family. We started this church in our living room. We've never changed our modus operandi? Operandi, you sure? It's not an E-N? Anyway, I don't even know, so why would I question you? I'm just, but anyway. It's always been this way, that we turn this place into a living room. If you want a movie theater atmosphere, go to First Assembly. They're a wonderful, righteous group of people, and basically you're not going to have Cliff coming to you with a microphone while the guy's preaching. You want a formal atmosphere where you can sit and observe and not have to be engaged, or not even come 3-4 times in a row. Usually nobody's going to say, where were you? I missed you. Which a lot of people interpret as, what a bunch of nosy people trying to keep tabs on me. And then some people interpret it as, they must really love me. See even the difference in response to others? But we want a church that's intimate, and it's not that popular to be that way. But honor is when we appreciate, respect, and have affection for. And that means when you have a special event like Maddie did not that long ago, And she probably could have taken her, left us honoring her, but in her memories, see, that's what I remember. I remember stuff people did to give to me and honor me, that at the time, I was on my way out to California the next day or two from the graduation, the Calvin graduation, literally. And at the time, here my mom and dad gave me, I still got it, I should see whether or not it works yet. I can make it work, but gold, I don't mean real gold, but gold-colored Bolivar watch with little diamond chips on either side of this as my college graduation presents. And at that time, I was so preoccupied with moving to San Francisco, I didn't take the time to appreciate what a honoring, loving sacrifice that watch was. Today, I'm so sorry that I wasn't more openly appreciative of such a sweet, special gift. You know, so sometimes what you do for, say, Maddie today, maybe she's so busy and involved in this, it really didn't rock her world. But maybe when she's 50, she looks back and say, you know what, no matter how I acted, those people over there really loved me. And it means something. That's what Jesus looks like. A community of people that care about your special events and respect and honor you in the midst of it. That's what I think when you have one of your kids grow. I hardly know Siobhan, hardly know him. But there'll come a time if the Lord starts to deal heavily with his heart, he's going to think about what looks like love and become it. If he truly wants to please the Lord, he's going to recount all the times that church people made them feel the love of the Lord. And he's going to do it. In this day and age, young people sometimes just don't reflect. The next day is the next day, and whatever happened the day before, oh well, that's past. But as we get older, we reflect on what experiences mean to us, and what we, like another word that came up a lot is kindness. Now I'm going to blow the star in my crown for this one, because I'm going to tell you I did an act of kindness today, intentionally, to try out my new skills of being a friend to the woman next door. She doesn't even know yet that she's going to become an experiment, and I'm going to bless her, but it'll be an experiment. But last time they were in Chicago, she wrote me a note that I didn't see until they got back that said, when the trash man comes, would you please roll my trash cans back by the garage? And I didn't see it until after the fact. They had already come home and done it. This time there was no note, but I saw her trash cans out there, and they were emptied, so I did roll it back by her garage. An intentional act of kindness. That is not, my nature is kindness, but my nature is not to notice the little things that would make you feel the kindness. That's another thing, is one of my goals. Learn. And there's stuff I don't have time for. I remember Teresa, one of her, I think Richard, where'd Richard go? Where's Richard? Busted. But anyway, so that means, anyway. Huh?
Tracy's never been here.
She hasn't, well, in my mind, she's here all the time. If she said she was here, she's here. But I know Richard was here because we were playing about the blue before. But one time he went to Teresa's house and cleaned her refrigerator. That's one of the biggest things that spoke love to Teresa, was an act of service. Remember the love languages? Yeah. Okay, well, if you want to be my friend and that's your biggest way of knowing I love you, you're going to feel a lack of love. That's one of you're very kind in contributing your services. I don't have time to come and clean your refrigerator, as witnessed by the fact I barely have time to clean my own. I did it the other day and it took hours. It was just atrocious. Speaking of penicillin, oh my goodness. Anyway, you open up some and say, is this old? And wow, it's not really old, it's green and fuzzy. You know, but I'm saying kindness. And you have to interpret, I had somebody very, very close to me that the mother was not walking actively with the Lord, even though she was a believer, but her love language towards other people was giving. Giving. She gave this person that was complaining about her, she gave her a mink coat. Where would I wear that, she said. Oh, give it to me. I can find lots of places to wear. Trips to Chicago, for instance, in the winter. But anyway, and she's like, This particular person liked my mother because my mother was a milk and cookie person, tea time person, talk to me person. Her mother was we decided to give all you girls $10,000 right now, so in case we drop dead, at least you got that all clear right away. Her love language was gift giving. That was her love language. And she thought her mother did not love her because she wanted to receive attention, nurturing, in a mommy way. I'm not using the right words, but you know what I mean. But that's another thing you have to find out about friends. What's their way and ability to show kindness to you? There's some people that might ask you over for dinner, and to you it's no big thing because you could have somebody over once a week. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. You're already feeding a few kids. Why not add a couple of people? But maybe to that person it was a major sacrifice to get the house in order, to choose the meal, to have you over. She wants to say something, Cliff. Edie does. And to them, that was their way of saying, I love you and I want to do a deed of kindness for you. Believe me, if I have you over for dinner, now sometimes I've had people over in exchange for something they do for me, which I think is entirely okay. But if I had you over dinner just because I like you and I love you, know that I'm stretching my little big bunnies off. Yes.
So there was a year where I was switching schools and I was very nervous about how it was going to go. And the first day of school I walked in and on my desk there was a card with a bag of M&Ms.
Oh, how cute.
And it was from Karen Vandervliet.
No kidding.
So you have to think about this. She had to figure out where the school was, what the hours were, where my classroom was, and get it there in time so it was before I got there. So that's a person, and I mean, she's an outstanding example of someone who pays attention. If you say, I'm nervous about this, she won't say, okay, I'll pray for you. It's like she thinks of
cares. She's
acts of
empathic.
services to do something that was really, I never ever forgot that. That was such a blessing.
There's another thing that kept coming up even in the Word. They might call it compassion, but it's connected to empathy. Or weep with those that weep and rejoice with those that rejoice. That's empathic. To be able to, when somebody's telling you a story, instead of thinking, well, that wouldn't bother me, this isn't about you. Your friend is telling you a story. You could naughty think, you get upset over something, get off that. It's not about you. I have to actively do that because, again, I'm a direct to the point person. I can't imagine that still bothering you. You're how old? That is mean. And what I mean is just direct, let's move on. I'm hurting the other person without even realizing it if I act like that. And yeah, sometimes once or twice a year I might act like that. And then people get their feelings hurt and I'm wondering why. Because I listen and I care, but I'm letting you know that it amount to a hill of beans for crying out loud. You should have got over that a long time ago. They didn't invite you to their birthday party. Just think you don't have to buy one more gift. What could you do with $25? I mean, I might make a joke out of it like that. The other person genuinely feels like the people they thought of them as somebody to always include in a special event. She finds out, no, they don't think about you like that, like you thought they did. And it's extremely hurtful to somebody that actually was under the delusion they were special to this group of people. You know what I mean? I have to get in that mindset when I'm that would be you. You're sitting here. But empathy. Doesn't matter how I'd feel in the same situation. You're telling me what you're thinking, and you got a reason. I don't validate feelings that are birthed out of stupid reasons. You understand what I just said? I don't validate those feelings. You're obviously imagining something, and now you got this whole complex feeling cloud built up that's based on a lack of reality. You understand what I just said? My straw boss, who was 22 and I was 12, never asked me to marry him. Surely he knew I had a crush on him. And I'm crying in the dairy and telling you this, pretend. I did have a crush on him. I just never cried in the dairy and told anybody. But I'm just saying, how anybody with any sense would say, what in the world would give you the notion he'd ever want to marry you? You're 12, he's 22. The best he sees of you is on all fours pulling onions out of the ground. What in the world made you think Well, I got a crush on the guy. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not validating. I could say I feel bad for you that you thought either he or Pat Boone was going to court you. I was like daydreaming about being an oils artist so I could paint Pat Boone and go to, I'm 12, go to Hollywood with a picture and then he'd like me. Huh?
So I Love Lucy.
Is that for real? I know that. But if I'm crying because obviously Pat Boone loves his wife and I feel like he's deserted me, sweetheart, in the first place, he doesn't know you exist. In the very first place. You understand what I'm saying? You don't validate feelings and go along with them when they're absolutely immature and ridiculous. And what were you and I talking about in the first place? Why was I standing there?
I was talking about Karen Vandervliet.
Oh, I was, okay.
Candy in my room.
Yes, and you know what? Karen Vandervliet, probably a lot of you could get up and say something about Karen Vandervliet. She is amazing that way. She has been known to a friend when she had the time. Right now, she is squished. Big time squished. Big time squished. It's time if we have any time, and that's our love language, to give something back to her. That's about time for that. But back in the day, we'd go on a vacation. She'd subject taken her whole class to clean our bathroom. Or she'll come ahead of time with a little, if we're driving, a little traveling food package. Or, I mean, she is so, and if you got a birthday and she knows it, at least there might be a card. She is so in tune with, in fact, she's so in tune with it that when Jimmy was still home, she'd write cards on his behalf to make it look like he gave a toot. She did. She's trying to teach him something by example. That might be a hopeless excursion. The word friend. See, when I study something out, I get real basic. What is a friend? And it says in Webster, I went to Webster's. There's a lot in the Bible, like sticketh closer than a brother. They're by your side when you need it. In hard times, they feel with you. I mean, there's a whole list of things in the Bible, but I decided to consult the dictionary as well. This is so basic. One attached to another by affection or esteem. That's pretty simple. I like you. So, I gravitate maybe sometimes in the group to want to be by you for a while. And you know I love your kid. I just love Zachary. Some people walk in the door and there's no rhyme or reason for why do they become, I don't want to use the word favorite because I give everybody the time I think the Lord wants, but just a special comfort. Like you go to a flower store and all the flower arrangements are pretty, but this one pops. And people do that. You ever have that ever? A person pops. And doesn't it, like that Zach guy I had to fire last week? I miss him. I miss him. Jacob, wouldn't you admit he was oozing charisma, even though he was obviously a little off to lunch? He's oozing charisma. I just wanted to wrap him up and keep him. I don't know what it is about some people. Affection. You just feel around them. E.G. got after me on Sylvan Street because there was one little girl, they were both around 2 or 3 years old, that was all sparkles, and I kept putting her on my lap, and the other girl was shy and pulled back, and E.G., when we got home, said, "Mom, you are wrong. So-and-so needs affection as much as so-and-so, and you give it to this one just because," so many words, they return it so actively, but this one, you got to work on it. He goes, "That is not right." Well, that's an ongoing lesson for all of us. Because I don't care how you act, everybody wants affection. I don't care how you act. And if somebody doesn't want affection, they need healing. True or false? So we need to be the carriers. I'm not even going to go into that whole thing. We taught a whole seminar on levels of friendship. And one is as simple in the neighborhood of, "Hi, Charlie, how are you?" That's all the further you ever got for 25 years. "Hi, Charlie, how you doing?" Now, you could look at Charlie. If you bump into Charlie at Cedar Point, you can be so happy to see him because he's a familiar neighbor. "Hi, Charlie, I didn't know you were going to come to Cedar Point today, too." Now you've gotten just a tad closer because you made it obvious that even though you hardly know each other, you're glad when you see him, and you're glad he's in the neighborhood, and you're glad to see him there. And if Charlie's wife dies, and you and your husband go there and bring casseroles and rolls, as we're wont to do, there you go a little closer. But there's levels, and some stay on High Charlie the whole lifetime, and some get a lot deeper. But what I'm looking at right now is the kinds of friendships we make that are like Naomi and Ruth. And that's really deep. That's very deep. Whither thou goest, I will go. Your God will be my God. I love you. I want to be around you. You're wise, you're sweet, you're kind. I love you. That's deep. Yeah.
Okay, then the verse got lost. It says, a man who wants friends must show himself friendly, but there is a friend that goes deeper than a brother. That sounds just like what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Be friendly to everybody, but then there's some that go deeper.
And that's a gift. And Robert always tells me that somebody that he knew that was seeing a counselor told that person, if you have 2 or 3 friends,
They just say if you have 2 friends,
consider yourself rich.
Yes.
On that level, deep level.
yourself wealthy.
Yeah, yeah. Now the fact is, if we have a tornado come through here and everybody I'm close to is dead but me, I know I trust God to give me all the comfort I need. I need you, but I don't need you like water. I will not die without you, but my life is certainly enriched greatly with you. That's true for everybody in this room, for me, for concerning you. But then there's people that you get closer to. Friend, you're attached with affection. Now you have to watch out for that, because your soul affection goes to everybody that you get attached to. You have to be a friend with somebody else close, we have to be one with the Lord's Spirit. We're close because we're close to the Lord. You are not allowed unbelieving close friends. You know that. You're not allowed that. And if you do that, especially if it becomes a spouse, you will have misery, and I mean misery. Misery. You don't do that. But if you're a friend of the ministry, because it talked about friends of an organization, you favor and promote it. Now, probably an accident, but today Greg has a t-shirt on that says River of Life. And I'm sure it's not one that we generated, because we've never done that. When First Assembly started, they had bumper stickers, t-shirts, whatever, that said Miracle on 44th Street. Does anybody remember that? Miracle on 44th Street. And I thought it takes a tremendous amount of loyalty on behalf of the congregational members to take a stand for the ministry. Now, my personal birth out of rejection and distrust theory is, in other words, my bad part of my soul, that because we're different, for us to make bumper stickers that says, come to River of Life, you'd be like, oh, come on, you're pushing it. It's been a sacrifice for me to show up every week in that church that is really different from most. You know what I'm saying? I have this thing that it would be an imposition to tell you to be, for lack of a better word, proud of your church home enough to regularly invite people to it. And I mean, you can do what you want with that, pray for me, but that's the feeling that I have, right or wrong. Right or wrong, that's my feeling. Could be, too, that you get to be yourself here and you don't want to be that intimate with that person you work with every day. You understand what I'm saying? You don't want them in that part of your life because we are closer like a family. And I could understand that rationale, too. But a friend of the ministry favors and promotes. I think it's Ryan Vay, in some assessment he gave of River of Life, gave a glowing assessment of us and still visits us from time. He's a full-time praise leader over at the Pier on South Division. Whether or not he'd come here all the time anyway, I have no idea. You know, we watched these little clips on babies yesterday, which are addictive, by the way. You might want to go to Baby Clips Anonymous. Just when those reels were done, I said, Robert, I have to go upstairs. I did all this. The definitions, not the verse discussion, but the definitions last night yet after I left him. I said, we got to stop watching this. I got to get back up to work. And guess what the brat did next? He came upon a kitten reels. See y'all. But you know, he can watch whatever he wants to watch. I'm just saying, I love watching babies and kittens. But with the babies, now see, People take their baby and they show them something. They're like 6 months, 8 months old. And there was this one singing cactus that lit up. And so the baby's on the floor, the dad's right there, and he pushes a button or whatever, and the cactus lights up and starts singing. And the baby was scared and started screaming. And they think it's hilarious. I'm like, what kind of demon am I going to have to cast out of this kid down the road? You know, ooh, Greg. Tough, get tough. Spartans did that. They took their babies and threw them in the river. If they sunk, oh well. Survival of the fittest is the order of the day. Too bad for that kid. I think it's the Spartans. You can always put another word up there if it wasn't them. Yeah.
Oh, it was funny because Maddie got this sleeping Elmo doll that would make breathing noises, and it terrified her. Ernie, yeah. So we put it
Bert
in
and Ernie.
So we put it in a cabinet that we did not want her to go into. So if she opened it, she would see it and not go in it.
You guys are mean. My cousin, who I love right now, that I go to see at Thanksgiving time in Wisconsin, her and her sister were in my kitchen. I'm maybe 5 years old. She's like maybe 9 years older than me. I'm like 5 years old, and they decide they're going to make me a really good sandwich. They made me an onion sandwich. And they're looking at me like, yummy, yummy, which now maybe if you'd add a hot dog, I'd be okay. But just onion. And I'm all excited because I feel loved. More attention I'd ever gotten from the two of them simultaneously. And I bite into it. And you know what it did to me? It made me, I was the butt of a joke. It became very clear. And I felt very, like what seemed exciting, that I was being noticed, because you're 5 and they're like, what's 5 plus 9? 14. And you feel like finally your older cousins are loving and want to play with you and want to be nice to you. And they're laughing mockingly at the fact that I'm like, what? This is all, you know, that kind of thing. And it brings tears to your eyes if you get, whatever. I don't personally find that funny, because another one of the pictures was a baby that they handed a lemon to, and they're acting, oh, yeah, like this is going to be great. And then the baby's whole face looks like they're utterly betrayed. There's the next one in line for the deliverance service. I just say, that's not kind and it's not funny. I personally, if I make a joke like that with you, tell me right away that is not something you want to do. You shared it with all of us. You don't want to be like, and I don't. And I don't want to laugh with the person who's mocking you. And then what's the next thing they're going to do? In Proverbs, when it says when somebody's like that, and then you get upset, they say, oh, I was just in sport. In other words, you little wuss, overly sensitive. I was just, yeah, at my expense, you're mocking. At my expense, you're mocking. Now, if you're older and you're really close, maybe it comes off as a funny joke. When you're utterly dependent on that person, you're 5, they're making you a sandwich. I'm hungry, I don't make a sandwich yet, usually, at all. Or you're that baby that somebody just handed, and everybody's standing around waiting to laugh at your face that you make because they know it's going to be horrible. That's not kind. Does anybody think that's real funny when it's a baby? I think it's mean. You talk about using your authority to belittle and mock. There's a good example of it. I think it's very, very mean. And yeah, in our flesh we're tempted to laugh, but think about it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. How do you like it? I was in a staff, social work, professional people staff. We had a supervisor that was always kind and fair to us. We invited him, another staff member had a party at their house, and he served hamburgers. And he's whispering to all of us how he put a little bit of dog dew in our supervisor's hamburger. And he thought it was hilarious. Thank you. I thought it was exceedingly wicked and evil. And some people laugh like, ha. He thinks he's so much, and he's the supervisor. He's supposed to take authority, for crying out loud. And I think he felt happy because for a change he got invited to one of the staff parties. Somebody have their hand up over there? Rebecca did. That's not kind. A friend is kind. You don't do stuff, and then add insult to injury, pointing at him, you can't take a joke. That's even more wicked. I don't know, maybe you think I'm just acting like a typical woman, and yeah, okay, good. Go ahead.
That actually, I was going to say, that starts off a spirit of not trusting people. It causes
There it
you
is.
to put borders up, and you don't trust people, and then who can I trust? And that can just build so much, because every time that happens, it's another stepping stone of why I can't trust that person, or I can't trust this type of people, or, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not a good thing at all.
Yeah,
And
no,
you
you
start-
don't when you see how they did somebody else. I don't think our supervisor ever found out he had just eaten a bit of dew. I would never tell him that. I might advise him not to come to one of that guy's parties, but I don't know how I'd even approach that. But I'm just saying, that's not kind. If you're the recipient, you get it. If you're watching the baby picture and you laugh, you're not really sensitive and mindful of doing to others as you want to be done. If somebody feeds me something, I want to assume they love me and they want me to enjoy this piece of food. Or I need it, I hate it, spinach or whatever, I'm a little kid, but I need it. I want to be able to trust that you're doing, check this, if I'm kind, I'm going to do what's in your best interest. I'm not doing anything at your expense to make you the entertainment for the night, belittling you that way. Now, some of you have accused me, I don't know anybody in this room have, I'm speaking of River of Life over the things, that if I correct somebody, somehow I get pleasure in belittling you. Now, when Jacob corrects me and tells me a real meaning of a word, have you ever seen me do anything but say, thanks, I want you to do that? Have I always done that? Always. But because of your universal, whoever's done this, pride, you see it as belittling. I see it as a favor. I can't help that. That you're more into pride and ego than you are into actually wanting to know the truth about what you just said. You know what I mean? If you say you stand up here and you quote a verse and you interpret it, but I know 4 other verses that contradict that meaning, because here it's balanced out, I'm rightly dividing the word. So I say, what about this and this and this? If you do that to me, you have always seen me be grateful. Always, always. Have I ever been anything but grateful? If you point out, Jacob, you're the one that points it out the most, and I want you to. Have you ever seen me be anything but grateful? I ask for that. When there's people in the house that I say no, and even with Rebecca sometimes I've said, and she got dyslexia, so I've dealt with that with her. That's not the right meaning or pronunciation or whatever. She's grateful. And you got 4 or 5 people that are just so utterly offended on her behalf. I had somebody come up to me at 12th Street and say, if you would have said to me what you just said to her, I'd be offended. I said, you notice I never have talked to you like that. You know, in my mind I think, I know you're not easily entreated. I know your ego is bigger than your desire for truth. Now, is that bad for me to think that? But I'm seeing, anyway, I'm saying we want to be kind, but don't misdiagnose what you consider to be mean because your ego couldn't handle it. Do you understand exactly what I just said? Just because you can't handle it doesn't mean Rebecca's not grateful. Rebecca has come such a long way in the past years that she's been in the school. It's incredible. Especially starting out with the disability she had and has, but she's plunged through. Now she's learning, we were just talking about that, and she's learning, put it on the board and let's all say it together. That's a good way to get, because like Robert is reading, he reads a lot better even at home than he sometimes does here, because you still got the old phobia biting your heels of times when you weren't getting it. So what if he said, put it on the board, and then we all read it together? That takes the nervousness away from the person. They learn to do it more and more. Oh, you just outed her. She's got dyslexia and she doesn't read as well as Karen Cook or whatever. Come on, that's your ego talking. That's your ego talking. Get over it. I'm trying to be kind to him, to her, to anybody that's got any kind. Or some people stutter when they get nervous. How can we help them? You can help them by never owning the fact they stutter. I don't think that's a help. I think we need to find out how they can do that, but without the discomfort and embarrassment, and we work together. You might not agree, but Robert and I are the ones that have to figure out these things ultimately, and it's not out of a lack of kindness, right? Kind, I'm going to go till 12:30, so that's 4 minutes, of a sympathetic or helpful nature. Sympathetic. Like I was talking about the spiders and the snakes, I want you to sympathize with me when I'm repulsed by a snake. I have no right to mock you if you're scared of a spider. What's the difference? I care. Oh, I'd never be scared. No, you're not, but you're scared of snakes. What's the difference? They want you to be kind and understanding and not put down and mock. And kind, sympathetic, which is close to empathic. Put myself in your shoes. You're having an honest emotional response to something, and instead of belittling my mother, you get around her. My dad died right in front of her. He turned blue. Heart attack, and that was the one day she gave in to, could I have some bacon for breakfast this morning? He was forbidden to have bacon, and Mama went and gave him a couple of pieces, and that day he drops dead in front of her. Yeah, like it's her fault. It's not her fault. He was this close to dying anyway, second heart attack. I'm not trying to belittle, but I'm just saying she felt really bad. And years, I ain't talking about the first year after year, 4 and 5 times a year, she'd relive every detail of that dropping dead to me. Now, there was a point I'm like, for crying out loud, but I knew it was unkind. When in the world are you going to get over rehearsing this? But I knew she was so impacted by that moment. She still needed a Band-Aid. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? What are you going to do if the thing's still bleeding and you need a Band-Aid? Are you going to mock us? I've heard enough about this crap, you little wuss. I don't want to hear about it again. Well, I can't do that to my mom. That's very unkind. And she might have needed some deliverance by then, because you can have a spirit of grief. But then, speaking of my mother, she didn't even believe a person could have a demon, so that might be helpful with you, but not her, because she's going to feel whatever. I'm just saying kindness. How do we do the golden rule? How are we kind? And the topic overall is being a friend, being a godly friend, and picking godly friends. So I'm just picking out some key characteristics of godly friends that I saw repeated in the Word. You don't do pranks. Pranks are not funny. When you're punk pranked, it's not funny. Unless that person is all in and you know it. There's 3 guys that are constantly punk pranking each other. Not dangerously, but just, you got egg on your face now. And they think it's hilarious. But you better know that these buddies are on that level with each other. And don't bring in somebody you know is weak and feels rejected and then point at them and say, you can't take a joke. No, I can't if I'm being punk pranked and you give me a sandwich. Now why don't you give me a lemon and onion sandwich while you're at it? You thought the onion was so funny. I mean, that hurts. And then you're supposed to act like it's funny, make you lie. It ain't funny. I'm just saying kindness.
I'll be with you till we
Thank
meet
you.
again. By his counsel guide uphold you with his sheep securely for you. God be with you till we meet again. Oh, till we meet. Till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet, till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again.
God bless you and keep you. Make
Lord,
his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto all of you.
Amen. Lord, we thank you for the word this morning. We ask you to teach us how to do and how to be, how to bless our brother and sister, and what not to do to them, Lord. Help us to be loving, long-suffering, gentleness, meekness, kind.
Yes.
Bound
your
of not
fruit,
ourselves, but encourage the others, Lord. Keep us in your ways.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Honey, people don't wear hearing aids like that. You look like somebody in Africa with those hoop. Bye, Sue. Unless she's just getting something. I have no idea. I'm only partially blue now.